There are certain kinds of exhaustion that don't show through sweat, not because of heavy workloads, not because life is overwhelmingly busy, but because of something much quieter inside the fatigue of overthinking. The exhaustion of wondering, did I disappoint someone? The heaviness of replaying conversations that never actually happened. There are nights when you lie awake because of a single confusing look someone gave you. Mornings when your heart sinks, recalling a careless word someone spoke without even thinking. And strangely enough, deep down, those people probably aren't even thinking about what still troubles you. The Buddha taught you will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. Our deepest suffering often doesn't come from others, but from how tightly we hold on to things that were never ours to carry. Today, here on Mindful Healing, let us gently sit together and explore one of life's most difficult truths. True freedom only comes when we learn to release what was never meant to stay. One, why do we always react? Imagine your mind as a crystal clear mirror. When the mirror is clean, you see the world exactly as it is clear, honest, untouched, and undistorted. But then a criticism from a colleague, a thoughtless comment from a loved one, a cold glance from someone you deeply care about. Bit by bit, these fingerprints start smudging the surface of the mirror, and slowly you no longer see reality as it truly is. Instead, you see the world through a layer of wounds, judgments, doubts, and self-defense. The truth is, what hurts you isn't fully what others say or do. It's the silent expectations you've been quietly nurturing deep within. They must be fair to me. They must understand me. They must treat me better. These silent musts slowly become the deep roots of your suffering. Like holding a thorny vine close to your chest, the tighter you squeeze, the more you bleed. The Buddha taught you will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. We are not wounded because the world is unfair, but because we've unknowingly written silent scripts about how the world should behave toward us. And every time someone steps outside of this mental map, we've drawn powerful emotional waves rise within us. Anger, sadness, betrayal, disappointment. But if we pause, we will see these waves don't come crashing from the outside. They rise from within us. Right in that space between stimulus and reaction lies the doorway to peace. That is mindfulness. When someone says something hurtful, you can react instantly, or you can pause, take a deep breath, and see clearly what is happening. This is what they said. It is not the truth about who I am. This is an emotion arising, but I don't have to become it. Mindfulness doesn't ask you to suppress or avoid your emotions. It simply invites you to pause, to see things clearly without being swept away. And right there, peace begins to bloom. 2, the invisible traps that control. Most of the time, it's not the outside world that controls us. It's the invisible traps inside our own minds. The trap of fear, the trap of needing approval, the trap of trying to control everything. For example, you say yes to attending a gathering you never wanted to join simply because you're afraid of disappointing someone. You post a photo not because you feel joy, but because you're secretly waiting for the likes, the comments, the validation to remind you that you matter. Every time you fall into one of these unseen traps, you quietly give away a little piece of your peace. But each time you recognize one, just recognize it. You take a small but powerful step closer to inner freedom. Awareness is the beginning of liberation. So ask yourself gently, what invisible trap is quietly draining my energy today? Is it the fear of being disliked, the need to be seen, the urge to control what cannot be controlled? The moment you can see the trap, you are no longer fully caught inside it. Naming the trap weakens its power. And with practice, little by little, you reclaim the space within you that was once ruled by these silent forces. 3, what happens when you stop caring? When you clench your fist tightly, you can't receive anything new. In the same way, the tighter you try to control life, the more exhausted you become. The Buddha taught letting go is freedom. So often we drain ourselves trying to control things that were never meant to be controlled. We want people to understand us, to love us the way we want, to admire us, to agree with us. And yet the harder we try to force life to meet these silent expectations, the more fragile, anxious, and disappointed we feel. True peace is not a reward you earn after you've done everything right. Peace arrives the moment you stop straining to make everything turn out exactly the way you imagine. It's in the quiet space where you release the need to be understood and simply allow yourself to exist as you are in this moment. When you stop trying to control others' opinions, you no longer carry the heavy weight of constantly proving yourself. And that lightness, that space where you breathe a little easier, that is where peace begins. Not because life became perfect, but because you stopped needing it to be. Hakuriyuri. For you are not your thoughts. The mind never stops producing thoughts. They must hate me. I'm not good enough. What if I fail? These voices arise like whispers, sometimes loud, sometimes subtle. But here's the truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. Imagine this. Your thoughts are like clouds passing across the wide open sky. You don't need to chase them. You don't need to hold on to them. You don't need to fight them. Simply allow them to drift by. Each time you let a thought pass without grabbing it, you take one gentle step closer to inner stillness. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we attach to what is impermanent, and thoughts are some of the most impermanent things in our lives. They come, they go, they change, they fade. But we suffer when we mistake these temporary visitors for permanent truths. The more you practice watching without reacting, the more peace begins to bloom quietly within you. You realize this is just a thought. It is not who I am. And in that awareness, the storm inside begins to calm, not because the storm disappeared, but because you stopped standing in its rain. Shafiv, do less, but do it well. You're not exhausted because you're doing too much. You're exhausted because you're spending your energy on things that don't truly matter. Every day, the world throws endless tasks at you. Deadlines, messages, obligations. But not everything is equally important. The more you try to carry it all, the more scattered and overwhelmed you feel. Clarity comes when you simplify. Each morning, gently ask yourself, what are the 3 things that truly matter today? Not 10, not 20, just 3. Pour your full presence, mindfulness, and care into those few essential things. Everything else, let it go. Many of the tasks we chase are simply noise disguised as responsibilities. True success isn't about how many things you complete. It's about how deeply present you are with what truly matters. When you slow down, when you give your full heart to fewer things, life begins to feel lighter, more meaningful, and far more peaceful. Less doesn't mean smaller. Less means deeper. 6. Let go of the inner drama. Much of your pain doesn't come from what actually happens. It comes from the stories your mind creates around it. They didn't text me back. Do they hate me? My boss seemed distant. Did I mess up? One tiny event sparks a movie inside your head. Suddenly, you're not just living the moment, you're acting in a drama your mind has written, directed, and produced. But here's the truth. These stories aren't always reality. The next time you catch your mind spinning its familiar script, pause and gently ask, is this true? Or is this just a story my mind is creating? That simple question creates space, a space where you no longer have to participate in the drama. You don't have to fuel the storyline. You don't have to keep adding scenes to the mental movie. And the less you play along, the faster the story dissolves. You return to the present moment, calm, clear, free from the weight of imagined pain. The drama fades not because life changes, but because you stop performing in your own mind's theater. 7. Stay open, even in pain. When you feel hurt, the natural instinct is to close, to pull back, to build walls, to protect yourself from being wounded again. But the more you close, the deeper the pain sinks. Healing doesn't come from hardening. True healing comes from staying soft, even while standing inside the storm. This doesn't mean letting others walk all over you. It means keeping your heart open, even when life tempts you to shut down. When you feel your chest tighten, when you sense yourself pulling away, pause. Gently ask yourself, where am I closing right now? What am I protecting? Can I soften here even just a little? Every time you stay open, even for a brief moment, you train your nervous system to handle life with grace instead of fear. Softness is not weakness. Softness is strength, the kind that bends but doesn't break. It's in that openness where true resilience lives, where pain can pass through you without taking root inside of you. 8. Cut the rope of expectations. Expectations are like silent ropes wrapped around your peace. You may not see them, but you feel their pull every time reality doesn't meet your hopes. They should have treated me better. They should have understood. Things should have turned out differently. Every should quietly tightens the rope, strangling your freedom, suffocating your calm. The Buddha taught attachment is the root of suffering, and expectations are simply attachments dressed in quieter clothes. True freedom begins the moment you release the need for others to behave exactly how you wish. You no longer demand life to match the script you secretly wrote. Instead, you allow life and people to be as they are. And when disappointment arises, pause and gently ask yourself, what expectation am I holding right now? Which rope is pulling on my peace? With that awareness, you create space, and slowly you loosen your grip, allowing life to breathe again. The more ropes you release, the lighter your soul becomes. 9. Practice non-attachment. Love does not mean control. True love allows freedom. Non-attachment is not about loving less. It's about loving more purely without trying to possess. It's the ability to fully cherish the present moment without demanding it to last forever. So often we hold on tightly, fearing that if we loosen our grip, we'll lose what matters most. But the Buddha reminds us everything is impermanent. Everything changes. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you understand that nothing in this life can be held forever. You love with open hands, not clenched fists. Imagine holding water in your palm. The softer you hold it, the longer it stays. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. Non-attachment allows you to experience life fully while releasing the fear of losing what you love. You let go not because you don't love, but because you finally understand. Love is only real when it flows freely. 10. Stop performing for the world. Life often hands us scripts to play. The good child, the perfect employee, the loyal friend, the one who always says yes. And so we perform. We wear masks trying to fit into expectations, hoping for applause, approval, or acceptance. But the Buddha teaches, true happiness begins the moment you stop performing and simply return to who you really are. You don't need to be who the world expects you to be. You only need to be who you are. Every time you let go of the need to impress, you reclaim a piece of your true self. You no longer live chasing other people's approval, but walking your own path quietly, gently, authentically. Freedom is not found in playing your role perfectly. Freedom is found in dropping the role entirely. And in that simplicity, you rediscover the peaceful wholeness that was always waiting beneath the performance. 11. Reclaim your attention. Your mind is like light. Whatever you shine it on grows. If you focus on fear, anxiety, and negativity, they expand. If you focus on peace, gratitude, and presence, they grow instead. In today's world, your attention is constantly being pulled in 100 directions. Social media, endless news, meaningless conversations, constant noise. But you have a choice. Every day, gently detox your mind. Unfollow what drains you. Limit the information that feeds your fears. Step away from the noise that doesn't serve your peace. The Buddha taught what you think you become. Your attention is sacred. Protecting it is not selfish, it's an act of self-care. The more you guard your focus, the more space you create inside for clarity, calm, and deep presence. Where your attention goes, your life follows. And in that quiet space, you reconnect with yourself fully, deeply, peacefully. Turn resistance into acceptance. Life will always bring unexpected waves, storms you didn't see coming, changes you weren't ready for, losses you never imagined. And the more you struggle against them, the deeper you sink. The Buddha reminds us, whatever has the nature to arise has the nature to cease. Like a river, life keeps flowing. Your pain, your worries, your challenges, they too will pass. But only if you stop fighting the current. Acceptance does not mean giving up. Acceptance means starting from a place of inner peace. It's the difference between thrashing in the water and learning to float. Between resisting every wave and letting the waves carry you gently forward. Each time you say, "This is what is, and I will meet it with grace," you release the extra weight of unnecessary suffering. Acceptance brings spaciousness. It allows life to move, to breathe, to shift, without dragging your soul into constant battle. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. You still pursue your goals. You still take action. But your heart is steady, no longer chained to how things must turn out. The greatest peace comes not when life is perfect, but when you no longer need it to be. Surrender not to defeat, but to the natural flow of life itself. And in that gentle surrender, you find the deep stillness you've been searching for all along. Conclusion. The moment you stop trying to control everything, the world stops controlling you. Peace doesn't arrive because life becomes perfect. Peace arrives when you no longer need perfection. The journey of awakening begins when you turn inward, gently recognizing what you've been gripping too tightly, and little by little, releasing, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Out of the quiet, knowing that freedom is found in letting go, not in holding on. Like the open sky, you are not the storm. You are the space through which the storm passes. Clouds may gather, winds may rise, but the sky remains. Vast, calm, untouched. This is your true nature. And every time you release what no longer serves you, you return home to that unshakable stillness within. You don't need to fix life. You only need to stop clinging to how you think it should be. In that gentle surrender, you rediscover the peace that was always quietly waiting inside you. If today's reflections touched your heart, gently click like and subscribe to continue walking this mindful journey with us here at Mindful Healing. And if someone you love may be quietly carrying burdens of their own, feel free to share this video with them, because sometimes all we need is a small reminder of peace.